Hello again, and welcome to another edition of the Mack Brown Show. My name is Jones Angel, virtually alongside the Hall of Fame head coach of the Tar Heels, Mack Brown, and we'll be here for the next hour or so talking Carolina football. We'll revisit that exciting win for Carolina this past weekend in Durham over Duke. We'll look ahead to another tough matchup for the Heels, another in-state opponent with Wake Forest coming off a bye week for the Deacs. They're coming to Chapel Hill to see the Tar Heels Saturday at noon. We have some good questions from you to answer as well, and a lot more to do. Plus a conversation with Jake Lawler, former Tar Heel, who just had his first official short film, was part of a film festival. He talks about that, about some challenges that he's had personally, his relationship with Coach Brown, and a lot of different things as well. So that's coming up later in the show. But let's start with Saturday afternoon in Durham, Carolina Duke. And Coach, first of all, congratulations. And secondly, wow, what an impressive performance on Saturday. Carolina scores on its first 6 possessions of the game, 7 of its first 8, with the one that it didn't score. The Heels it was just 1 second left in the first half. So just an unbelievable offensive performance for the Tar Heels. Jumped on Duke early and never looked back.
No, really proud of the guys. They understand the importance of this game with Duke every year. They understand that when their name is in our fight song and we're playing for a victory bell, that we need to keep it. And people are happier when we do. And we have great respect for David Cutcliffe and Duke football. And they've done a tremendous job throughout the years here. David's been there a long time and done the best job anybody's ever done at Duke over many years. So we knew it would be a tough game going in, and we just played pretty flawless on offense, and defensively we were even 5 of 5 in the red zone on offense for touchdowns until that last one where we were killing the clock. We had 4 for 4 on fourth downs. Kept them 0 for 2 on fourth downs. We forced 2 turnovers. So just really, really a good day of football for us. Still a lot of things we can fix, but I like the attitude. I like the effort. We got to play a lot of people and come away with a super win.
56-24, by the way, the final score. Coach, 26 plays of 10 yards or more for your offense. It felt like the explosiveness of this offense was on display on Saturday afternoon.
Yes, when we do that, we used to do that at Texas, and when you do that as a coach, as a fan, you get so that's what you expect. And then you come out and we don't do that, and they say, what's wrong? Because that's not the norm. But the guys are doing so well. Sam played a near perfect game. He held 1 ball too long, and they made an outstanding play for the interception. But other than that, the offense was clicking. By far the best performance with our offensive line. And in fact, the offensive line were the players of the game offensively. Jeremiah Gemmel, as many guys that played well on defense, 5 sacks. Yep. But Jeremiah Gemmel played the best on defense. Really proud of the 2 corners that you got your 2 starting corners out, and Patrice Renee and Day Holland step up and just do an outstanding job. Day getting abused by the team yesterday on video because he got caught by a lineman trying to run it back for a touchdown, so that got him. Yep. But Chris Collins, who hadn't played a whole lot, gets 2 sacks. And then a lot of those young guys played on defense. So, and the kicking game was really good. So it was just a day where everything clicked for us, and really, really proud of the guys. They knew the importance. They prepared well and played well.
Coach, you mentioned the offensive line. Last week, we talked a lot about those 2 outstanding defensive ends for Duke, and Victor Dimukeji and Chris Rumpf, and they combined for just half a tackle for loss in this game. How did you guys neutralize their effectiveness some in this game?
First, I thought the offensive coaching staff did a really good job of understanding how good those guys are, how productive they are, and putting a scheme together that would help keep them there. So Garrett Walston didn't catch the ball, but he was vital for our protection. So we kept the tight end in some. We chipped with the back some. We turned the protection some. So all the things you need to do when you're playing great pass rushers, we were able to do. And then really, really good game plan by our coaches.
10 tackles for loss, 5 sacks on defense. You had that interception by Day Hollins that you mentioned, Coach. A fumble. It was just a really active day, it felt like, for your defense.
Yes, the defense was all over the place. They did a better job against the run because Duke can really run the ball well. We haven't been a team forcing turnovers, and we were able to do that. We got the 2 fourth-down stops. We were really, really good against them on third downs. Yeah. Good in the red zone on defense. So still missed some tackles we've got to clean up. We still gave a couple of explosive run plays that we need to stop. We let them get off the goal line once on a draw play on 3rd and 18, which you just can't do. We had some penalties. All of our penalties were rushing the passer. Yep. 2 of them were hands to the face, and we've turned some of those into the league to look at. And also 2 of them were roughing the passer. One where Tamon Fox was blocked, fell down on the ground, got back up and ran into the quarterback, and he didn't even know he didn't have the ball. And another one is Ray Vahasek comes in, and he's trying to hit him around the waist and goes lower than that and hits him in the thighs and gets a roughing the passer call there on a 3rd down. So those are things we can clean up. They're aggressive penalties. We didn't have many penalties on offense. But again, like the fact that the guys are fighting to get to the quarterback, got to watch your hands and not hit that. You can't hit the quarterback anymore. Yeah. Can't hit him high and you can't hit him low. So there's about a 6-inch area that you can hit him, and that's good to keep those guys safe.
Patrice Renee did that pretty well. He got the quarterback a couple times right in the midsection with some nice plays, but it is tough right now rushing the quarterback, to be sure. Coach, last thing before we take our first break here. Felt like a big moment. First play of the second half. You guys had dominated half number 1. Of course, everybody goes in, regroups. I'm sure Duke had talked about the importance of its first drive coming out of the locker room. And very first play, Jeremiah Gimmel forces a fumble. Chaz Surratt jumps on it. You guys score a couple plays later. It felt like that really was a statement by your team to shut the door to any comeback possibilities.
Yes, at halftime we talked about us at Florida State. We were down 31-7. And we fought back and had a chance to win the game. In fact, really should have won the game at the end. And we said Duke's got a lot of pride. They're well coached. They're great young people that are smart. So they're not going to lay down. They're going to come back and fight. So I did think that was critical to start the second half.
Carolina ends up winning it, as we said, 56-24. Tar Heels now 5-2 overall, 5-2 in the ACC as well, with another big conference and in-state game coming this week with Wake Forest visiting Chapel Hill. We'll talk about that and a lot more as we move through the show. We have the Jake Lawler interview. We have your questions for Coach. We're going to highlight a couple of the individual standouts when we return. It's on the Mack Brown Show from Learfield, IMG College. Mack Brown Show here with you again. And a quick reminder, Tar Heels, after playing Wake Forest this weekend, the Heels have a bye next weekend, so we do not have a show next week. We'll be back with you in a couple of weeks. We do have more shows to come as this season moves into the second half, but no show next week with Carolina having the weekend off. We'll remind you that one more time before we say goodbye today. All right, let's get to our UNC Health Champions Watch, where we highlight some of the individual statistical champions from the previous game. It's brought to you by UNC Health, and the team at UNC Health is dedicated to caring for champions of all kinds. That includes you and your family. You can see their lineup at unchealthcare.org/sports. Javonte Williams, 151 yards rushing, 24 yards receiving, 4 total touchdowns. And the touchdown number is the one we're going to highlight here. That's now 17 total touchdowns for Javonte Williams. He leads the nation in that statistic, and he is already tied for the 5th highest single-season Tar Heel touchdown total. Elijah Hood had 17 in 2015. Coach, another terrific day for Javonte Williams running the football.
Yes, big, strong, powerful guy, ready to play every day at practice, ready to play every game. He's the complete player. He can run it, he can catch it, he breaks tackles in space, he's got speed when he breaks down the middle. He can protect, and he's very, very unselfish. And we're so lucky to have he and Michael Carter, because very honestly, Robert Gillespie's done a very good job of coaching those guys, but it doesn't matter which one's in the game. And every weekend I come back in and see how many touches they have, and it's usually within 1 or 2 plays because Robert does such a good job of making sure that a fresh guy stays in the game.
And to that point, Michael Carter had a big day as well. 85 yards rushing, 46 yards receiving. He had 2 total touchdowns. One of the neat part about both those guys, at least one of those scores for each of them, was a very physical finish to the run. We've talked about that as we've moved through the year. Michael Carter finishing a run at the pylon in one of those scores. Javonte Williams on a long run, finished through a couple of defenders at the end. Just terrific runs and plays by those 2 gentlemen.
And, Jones, it might have never happened before in your life, but Michael Carter ran over Michael Carter.
That's right.
To score, so that's pretty unique.
That's right. Duke has a veteran safety, a good player named Michael Carter who's had a lot of success, but on that particular play, it was the Tar Heel Michael Carter, certainly, that had the better of it. Also, Sam Howell, 3 touchdowns in the game. He now has 55 career touchdown passes, 3rd most in ACC history by a sophomore quarterback. The 2 who are ahead of him right now, both pretty darn good players. Trevor Lawrence had 66 in his through his sophomore year, and Florida State's Jameis Winston had 65 through his sophomore year. And, of course, those were after the year was over, so Sam still has a lot of football to play this upcoming year. Coach, you mentioned the players of the week. You said Jeremiah Gimmel. You said the offensive line. Who was it special teams-wise for the Tar Heels this week?
Well, your Jonathan Kim kicked 9 of 9 out of the end zone on kickoffs. Your extra points by Grayson Adkins were 100%. They had blocked 3 punts this year already, so really Ben Kiernan did an outstanding job on our punt. But the guy that made plays in every phase is Josh Henderson, and so proud of him. He just continues to be the best special teams player that we've got.
Coach, you mentioned the ability to play a lot of people in this game. Tar Heels substituted freely in the fourth quarter. But before the fourth quarter, you were able to do something that you've talked a lot about this year, and that's play some of those young players on the defensive side. Miles Murphy, Des Evans, Kamen Rucker, others got in the game early in the game and competed. How did those young guys perform in your mind?
They did really well. We felt like we've been taking a dip in the 2 games that we lost in the second quarter and digging ourselves in a hole. And then we had to come back and fight the second half to have a chance to win in the end. So we felt like maybe we're getting tired by just playing those guys the entire first half and not letting them rest. Clyde Pender broke his hand early in the year and missed time. Miles Murphy broke his hand and missed time, and he's still got a big club on. We're hoping he gets that off by the Notre Dame game. Des Evans had a sickness and missed 2 weeks, and that sets you back because you can't work out for those 2 weeks because he just didn't feel good. So a lot of those guys that got some early injuries, we didn't get to play Charlotte where we thought we would have a chance to play them some. So we just decided last week, Jones, we're going to put them out there and let them go because it's the balance of trying to win the games this year and get those guys ready for the future.
Sure.
But we also feel like that they got to play. They're talented. They don't know what to do a lot right now. It limits Coach Bateman's calls on defense when they're in there, but let's turn them loose and let them go. And then you see penetration by Kamen Rucker, and you see a sack by Des Evans. You see Miles Murphy in the backfield quite a bit. So those guys did show up.
Yeah, in fact, all 3 of those guys registered what I'll call a specialty stat in the game. Kamen Rucker, Miles Murphy each had a tackle for loss, as Coach referenced. Des Evans had a sack in the contest as well. Again, when it was all said and done, Tar Heels big, 56-24 over Duke. Coach, want to start getting some questions from Tar Heel fans after this break, but want to ask you about 2 things before we do that, both kind of general topics, but stuff that we have touched on some throughout the year. One is Brian Hess and his strength staff. We mentioned Carolina finishing runs and finishing plays. We talked about that a lot after the NC State game as well. What is it about Brian Hess that's so good? Every player talks about him and how much they enjoy working with him and his staff. How has he been able to achieve such success in that area?
Yes, we played high school senior Tony Grimes quite a bit on Saturday, and he is a guy that has to get with the strength staff and get stronger. And all those young guys we mentioned, they'll be different people in the spring because Brian Hess and his staff, they're young, they're aggressive, they're positive, they're upbeat, and the guys just love them. And they work so hard every day. We hit a home run when we hired Brian Hess. Has to be one of the best strength and conditioning coaches in the country. And he is the reason, I think, too, one of the main reasons that we're playing well in the fourth quarter. We got to help him in the second quarter by playing more people, but in the fourth quarter, we've been dominant. And you aren't as much in a game like Saturdays when you put in your younger ones and just run the ball, and you're not as aggressive as you were offensively in the early part of the game, but by and large, we've been dominant in the fourth quarter since we've been here, and I think a lot of that credit goes to him getting these guys stronger, faster, more flexible, but also, Jones, more confident. We weren't a very confident team when we got here, and we're starting to be more confident, and this is on a year where he didn't have them all spring. He didn't have them a lot this summer, and he had to do all of this online and talking to them and working them through things, and some of the guys didn't even have access to weight rooms or weights. They had to work out at home with push-ups and sit-ups and running with bags on their back, sandbags or even book bags. So it was a very, very unique and unusual spring and summer for all college football players, all athletes across the country, all people across the country. But I thought Brian did it the best, and that's really helping us right now.
Absolutely. Has a plan that he knows is proven and that works, but he's also flexible enough to learn new things, continue to learn and adapt, and make sure that Carolina is on the cutting edge in that area. No doubt, Brian Hess, one of the best in the country at his position, and a big plus for Carolina football. All right, let's take a timeout, come back. We're going to start getting to some of your questions for the head coach of the Tar Heels. It's the Mack Brown Show from Learfield, IMG College. Back again on the Mack Brown Show. Thanks so much for being with us, and time to get to some of your questions for the head coach of the Heels. And a reminder, the way that you can get those questions in, you can send an email really throughout the week, anytime. It's asktheheels@gmail.com, asktheheels@gmail.com. You can also send a tweet right to me. It's @JonesAngel. That's my Twitter feed, and Angel has 2 L's at the end. Don't forget, you can see it right there on the screen if you're watching us. So easy to send us a question. We got a bunch of good ones to get to today, and we'll start with a frequent question asker, and that is Dennis. Dennis sent this one in via Twitter, Coach, and said that he has seen you a lot on the sideline this year taking notes on a note card, and wondered what type of things are noteworthy to you, and then how do you use those notes either during that game or the next week or whenever you put them into action?
Well, Dennis, it's a great question. When we lose the game, people think I'm making a grocery list or a Christmas list. I'm not doing anything productive for sure. I have always done that. I probably should use my phone now, but it probably wouldn't be received very well. But what I've always done is I write down things that happen during the game that I need to talk to the coaches about, either at halftime or at the end of the game, or even on Sunday. So but it gives me a chance. I don't get to see the stats before I talk to the coaches at halftime. So that's my way of saying, here's how many penalties we had, here's where they were, here's what affected us, here are the things that we're doing well on offense, but we're not doing these things well. We've got to take care of this certain player. He's getting back there too much. It's just a general. I have 3 to 5 minutes to talk to our coaches at halftime about adjustments for the second half. Then they break up into groups, and then they go back to their players. So it gets me organized when I walk in there at halftime, because I've got to move fast. I don't have much time to think when we get in there. I've got to be prepared and ready to go.
Good question, Dennis. Let's call it our Cruisers question of the night, brought to you by our fast and friendly local convenience store, Cruisers. Cruisers, let's go. And let's go to a question that we received actually from a bunch of people this week, Coach, including Sherry, who sent this one in and wanted to know about your decision to switch to the face shield on the on the sideline this week. I think you've been wearing a gaiter for most of the season before this week, but went to the face shield. What prompted the change?
Sherry and you that are asking, it's a great question. Number one, I've got it today. So
there you go.
I wear it. There's a few things. The coaches have complained that in critical situations on the sideline, sometimes they can't hear me because it's muffled so much, and I'm screaming and I'm mad at them because I think they should hear me and they can't. So I see all the NFL head coaches wearing the face shield. It's safe. Our doctors have approved it. But the players can see my mouth. The coaches can see my mouth. and it's easier for me to talk to them. So communication this year has been really tough on the sideline. Not only because you're spread out further for special teams trying to find people, but you can't hear. And one game I was screaming, punt, 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 and they couldn't figure out whether I was saying field goal or punt. They couldn't hear me. They kept looking at me like this, and I got frustrated with them. What do you want me to do? I'm screaming. So it really is just a better means for communication. And then I've got to do a better job with it. I had my sunglasses under the shield. The shield was cutting into the sides of my head some, so I'll have to wear it more so I could wear it the second half as well.
Football in 2020, right, Coach? Things you
football
never
in
thought about.
2020. No question.
Coach, this is a question, again, that we got from several different people, including Ren, who is 7, and Evie, who is 5. They joined forces to send this question, along with some others who sent this as well, which is when you are to the point in a game where you are going to put in some younger players, who decides when that moment is, who decides who then goes in, and then kind of how much you rotate the younger guys that are in the game?
Evie and Ren, outstanding question. I decide that, and what I told them to do is get everybody in the game on Saturday. The one guy that we didn't get in was Noah Ruggles. He should have kicked the last couple of extra points, and you never know how many you're going to score, so that's tougher. And it's a hard decision. You can rotate on offense easier than you can defense. When you put your young quarterback in, you want him to have some of the older offensive linemen so he has a chance to move the ball and progress. But you want everybody to play. And you usually substitute less on defense until the game's over, because if the defense is playing well, they're not going to catch up. But just like Sam Howell, we would normally take him out at the end of the third quarter. We started him the start of the fourth quarter simply because he threw an interception. And we didn't want that to be his last play. And he had such an outstanding day. And then you tell him, don't scramble, don't run, get the ball out of your hands fast, and so you can stay safe. And then as soon as you score, you get him out and let the other guys play. But as soon as the game's over, you let them go. I asked Coach Bowden one time, I said, why do you score so many points? And why do you keep all your starters in the game so long? And I may not get the numbers exactly right, but he said we were beating Pittsburgh 35-0 when I was at West Virginia. We took them all out to start the fourth quarter. Pittsburgh came back and beat us 36-35, and I nearly got fired. So I said, I will never, ever take guys out early again. I'm going to make really sure that game's over. And if you go back to even our Florida State game, that was 31-7 at halftime, and we had a chance to win at the end of the game. So you've got to make sure you win the game first. And then at the same time, you want your players that play the most to play enough to stay in shape, so they're not playing a full game. And you need to get your younger, more inexperienced players some time. So it's a hard thing, but like we took all the skilled guys out first, left a few linemen in. When we put Jacoby Criswell in, Jace Reeder's done a great job, so I want him to play some plays too. So it's hard to get all that done on the sideline and still keep some continuity with your kicking game as well. But I thought the coaches did a really good job of getting everybody except Noah, which is my fault. We should have gotten him in the game on Saturday.
We have some more questions from you for Coach coming up in just a second. But, Coach, our next segment is going to be a conversation with Jake Lawler. Of course, Jake was a member of Carolina football. Last year was his final year with the Tar Heels. Terrific football player, of course, Coach, but he's made a big impact off the field as well. And in this conversation, he talks about how his relationship with you was a big part of why he was able to make that impact. So just somebody, a really unique and special individual for sure.
Yeah, I love Jake Lawler. He's a superstar in the making. He's taught me a whole lot. He's taught Sally a whole lot. He's actually working with our son-in-law out in L.A., and this guy's got a tremendous future, and just glad that we could be a little bit a part of helping him get from a tough place to the place he is today.
So you'll hear that after this commercial break. Jake talks about his new career path, talks a little bit about football, the impact that Coach Brown has had, and about his battle with depression, a very public battle that he has gone public with to try to help others as well. So we'll talk about that and more with Jake coming up in a bit, plus more questions for Coach still to do here on the Mack Brown Show from Learfield, IMG College. Chugging along here through the Mack Brown Show for a Monday, November the 9th. Thanks so much for being with us today. I'm Jones. He's the head coach of the Tar Heels, of course, Mack Brown. And we're going to get to some more of your questions after we ask you if you know any fans that work selflessly to improve the lives of others and their communities. If you do, LS Tractor would like to hear about it because LS Tractor and the Tar, and by the way, that's the letter L, the letter S. Somebody asked me if it was Ellis, E-L-L-I-S. No, it's the letter L, the letter S, Tractor. They've partnered up to recognize hometown heroes from throughout the state. You can go to goheels.com/hero and nominate someone you know for a chance to be recognized. LS Tractor is a proud partner of Carolina Athletics. Let's get to some more questions for Coach. Coach, you mentioned Jacoby Criswell earlier in an answer, and Paul, who is from Arkansas, sent an email in asking about Jacoby and said he was interested in your opinion on Jacoby's development and at a position where you have a clear starter right now, of course, in Sam Howell. What sort of progress do you try to see in a player like Jacoby, both as a freshman and as a backup to a very clear starter in Sam?
Well, one of the great things is the NCAA gave all these kids their year back. Yep. So he'll be a freshman again next year. And he has a great future, and we've committed an outstanding quarterback coming in as well. So we feel like that Jacoby can run, he can throw. He's behind one of the best players in the country. We haven't had a lot of opportunity to play a backup quarterback, but when we have, he's done a good job when he's gone in. And he's making progress every day in practice, he and Jace Reeder both. So we're in a much better spot right now if Sam had to come out of the game than we were at this time last year because we were so inexperienced. And the practice work that you get against your good players every day in practice is preparing him to play as well.
Coach, two more. One is from Dennis again, who sent in another good question this week and wanted to know, when you already possess the victory bell, like the Tar Heels did, of course, this year, and it's already painted the correct shade of blue, how do you allow the seniors on the current class to have a signature moment, if you will, with the bell when you already have possession of it?
Well, Dennis, the first thing is I was asked last week at the press conference, where are we going to put the bell so we don't have any incidents after the game? And I talked to Coach Cutcliffe, who's a great friend of mine, before the game, and we decided let's get it as far away from everybody as we can. And we even decided, because of COVID, we would wave across the field after the game and not go shake hands. Just thought that was the safest thing to do. And 3 minutes and something left in the game, I told our strength staff it was down near more near the entrance or the exit where Duke players would leave the field. And I said, go get it, put it as far on the other end of the field as you can possibly get it so it will not have any distraction between the two teams. But what we decided to do last year is if you win the game, then all the seniors get a picture with the bell right after the game. And then that picture will stay up in this building for the rest of eternity. And that's the way we can honor them. You don't paint it every year. Obviously, if Duke gets it, they come and get it. And what we've decided to try to do and working with David is if it looks like we're going to lose the game, then we'll put it somewhere where it's easier for them to get, just so we won't have any confusion with the kids. You got these guys that are fighting their guts out. And last year it looked like Duke was going to win. So it was down near the entrance or the exit where they're leaving the field, and ours went over to get it, and theirs were standing there. That's not smart on our part. So we as adults need to keep emotional young people that are fighting for something they really want from being too close together. But the answer, Dennis, is that the seniors' picture will stay up for a full year for next year with the bell, and then the picture that was up from last year's win will go somewhere in the building, and it will stay up for eternity.
A great idea. That's a neat way to honor that every single year and honor those senior class members who get that big win and get the victory bell. Coach, last thing, this one came from David, and talking about being too close together. David wanted to know your opinion on what happened at the end of the Clemson-Notre Dame game with fans spilling out on it to the field from Notre Dame. Obviously celebrating a big win, but maybe not the smartest move in our current climate.
David, we're talking about Notre Dame hadn't beat number one since '93, and they were all excited. And at that moment, it's just like us in the locker room right after a win. They're emotional. They're excited. We tell them put their mask on. But it's a moment where they kind of lose where they are in the enthusiasm and excitement. So I'm sure it's something that Notre Dame wishes hadn't happened. Not the win. They're excited the win happened, but that everybody came out. And that's something we all have to learn from, because these are unprecedented times, and we're going through things we've never been through before. So the first few wins that we had, we actually sang our song and stayed outside. Mm-hmm. And now that we've got a few more fans, we're doing things inside, but we're trying to be really, really careful while we do it.
Good questions this week. Thank you, David, and everyone else who sent in questions. We're going to take our final break here on the show, come back and preview the next matchup for Carolina. That is noon on Saturday versus Wake Forest. That when we return to wrap things up on the Mack Brown Show from Learfield, IMG College. Well, this stretch of 4 straight rivalry games comes to a close Saturday at noon in Kenan Stadium. Carolina hosting another in-state opponent. This time it is Wake Forest, the 108th meeting between the Demon Deacons and the Tar Heels. And, Coach, a game that a year ago I know you were particularly frustrated with, not just by the finish of it, but the way that it played out, and I'm sure a game that you will remind your team of as you get ready for this year's game.
Yeah, well, hopefully we don't have to remind them, and hopefully we're getting to a point, Jones, that we'll just play.
Yeah.
We need to play every week. We beat Virginia Tech. We have a great win. We don't play as well against Florida State. We beat NC State. We have a great win. We don't play as well at Virginia. Now we've beaten Duke. How will we respond? Will we keep playing, and will we improve, or will we walk around this week feeling too good about ourselves and get hit in the mouth like we did last year in Winston-Salem because they were up 21-0. And they were more physical than we were. I thought they coached better than we did. They had more energy than we did. I love the way our guys fought back and had a chance at the end. But they just did a better job in all phases than us. They've won 4 straight. They just beat Virginia, who we lost to. They beat Virginia Tech. They're playing really, really well. They had a week off to prepare for us. So they've had 2 weeks to prepare. They're fresh. They're leading the nation in turnover ratio. They forced 15 turnovers and lost 1.
Yeah.
Just lost 1. They haven't thrown an interception with Sam Hartman, their quarterback, all year. They play really good on defense. They got all the guys back, basically, they had against us last year. So I think this is the best team that's talked about the least of anybody we play. They're well coached, they're talented, and they win. And nobody says much about them. And that's a mistake. Our team's going to hear about them all week.
Yeah, when I saw that stat, I had to double check it to make sure I wasn't seeing things. 15 turnovers forced, just 1 loss through 6 games for Wake Forest. Certainly a big part of the Demon Deacons.
And Jones, the other thing is they're second in the league in fewest number of penalties, and we've had too many penalties. So those are things we've got to do better this week to have a chance to win.
So it is a noon kick. It is TV-wise ACC Network this week. Radio-wise, we'll be on the air at 11 a.m. for Carolina and Wake Forest. Coach, congratulations on the big win again this past weekend. Look forward to talking with you as we move through the week to get ready for Wake.
Thanks, Jones.